It's a time before memory, before language, before warmth. No fire to gather around, no homes to protect against the cold, no clothes to keep out the wind. And yet, they survived. They adapted. And somehow, we're still here because of them. Tonight, let's go back, not just thousands, but hundreds of thousands of years, to when our ancestors first walked the earth. And we'll slowly uncover how they endured a world so raw, so ancient, and so unforgiving. Welcome, and thank you for joining me tonight. This is Boring History for Sleep, a quiet place where we drift through the forgotten past. If your eyes feel heavy, let them close. If your thoughts wander, that's okay too. We're not in a hurry. Tonight's journey is long, peaceful, and deeply human. Let's begin. It is quiet, almost too quiet. There are no birds singing yet, no crackling fires, no human voices echoing in the stillness. The air is cold, brushing against the skin like stone. It's 300,000 years ago, somewhere on the African continent. The sun has not yet crested the horizon, but the first humans are stirring. They sleep in clusters, under rocky ledges, beside gnarled tree roots, or in the crooks of dry gullies. There is no mattress, no blanket, only the hard earth and the warmth of other bodies pressed close. This is a world before fire, before beds, before coffee, before alarm clocks. And yet, each day begins just the same, with survival. The cold is the first sensation. Their breath forms soft mist as they exhale. There are no clothes to hold in body heat. Instead, they huddle together in groups, sometimes 2 or 3, sometimes up to 20. Infants are swaddled in dried grasses, gently tucked against the bellies of mothers. Elders wake more slowly, groaning quietly as stiff joints remind them of yesterday's walk. Children rub their eyes and yawn, just like children always have. There's no spoken language yet, but there are grunts, gestures, hums, quiet ways to say, "I'm here," or "let's move." Slowly, the group begins to rise. They do not rush. They stretch, look around, and sniff the air. Because in this world, danger is always near. Without fire, they rely entirely on their environment and their bodies. Their skin is thicker than ours, their noses broader, better at warming the cold air before it enters the lungs. Many of them are covered in coarse body hair, inherited from ancient ancestors. They seek the sun, not for light, but for warmth. As it rises, they turn their faces to the sky, letting the golden rays spill across their skin like a silent blessing. In colder climates, early humans learned to burrow near warm rocks, deep in cracks or pits where wind couldn't reach. Sometimes they used animal hides, not sewn, just draped, to trap heat against their bodies.
But there were no houses, no doors to close. The world was open, and every night they faced the cold once again. Before fire, there is no cooking, so food must be eaten raw. Roots are dug up carefully, their bitter taste familiar. Berries are gathered and tasted one by one, because some will make you strong, and others will make you sick. Insects, grubs, and snails are delicacies, rich in fat and protein, easy to catch. Their children learn early. Lift the log, look underneath, be patient. Larger meals come rarely. A fallen antelope, already dead. A scavenged bird. Sometimes, a brave soul tries to drive small animals toward a cliff, or traps them in a ditch. And all the while, eyes scan the distance, because lions, leopards, and hyenas are watching too, waiting, always waiting. They carry stones, some sharp, some heavy, some worn smooth by years of use. These are their tools: hand axes, scrapers, hammers, not crafted in workshops, but found, shaped, and held close. A sharp flake can skin a hide or slice through tendons. A heavy stone can crack a bone to reach the marrow inside. Liquid gold in a world without warmth. There are no pockets, no belts. Tools are held in hands or tucked into makeshift satchels of bark or sinew. And each tool is passed from hand to hand, from mother to child, from elder to youth. The tools remember, even if the people do not. They do not speak as we do, but their minds are sharp. They remember water holes. They remember safe paths, dangerous ledges, the taste of bitter herbs. They learn from one another. Children mimic the motions of their parents, chipping stone, squatting to gather leaves, listening for movement in the tall grass. They understand the seasons. They know when the sky changes color, or when birds vanish before the rains. This is not the intelligence of books or words, but a deeper, older wisdom, written in footsteps, in shadows, in the curve of a stone. As the sun climbs higher, the day unfolds slowly. But for these early humans, every action, every movement is part of the great rhythm of survival. And somehow, in this harsh world without fire, without shelter, without clothes, they carry on. Before cloth, before thread, before even the idea of weaving, our ancestors lived exposed to the world. The wind touched their skin directly, but the human body had already begun to adapt. Unlike earlier hominins, Homo sapiens and their cousins had lost much of their body hair. Their skin had to work harder. It thickened, toughened, darkened to protect from sun and infection. Sweat glands evolved to cool them during long hunts. Muscle and fat shifted with the seasons, more in cold months, leaner during drought. They weren't weak, they were precisely made for a life that required nothing but the body itself. Naked, yes, but never unprepared. At night, the temperature dropped. Cold slipped in like smoke, quiet, creeping, impossible to stop. And yet, these humans endured. They slept pressed together, shoulder to shoulder, chest to back, parent to child. Heat pooled in the center of the group like water in a stone bowl. Sometimes they found dry grass or moss and packed it under their bodies. Other times they lay on animal skins left behind by predators, not stitched or tailored, just draped, wrapped, or shared. Caves were used, but rarely. Most slept in the open, under overhangs or between trees. They had no locks, no protection from wind or wolves, only instinct, trust in each other, and the stars above. And yet they slept, every night, just like we do. We think of home as a building, 4 walls, a roof, perhaps a fire inside. But in the deep past, shelter was wherever you happened to be. A dense thicket, a shallow cave, the leeward side of a large rock. No permanent houses, no cities, just movement, always forward, always following the herds and the rains. They didn't need keys or property, they didn't stay long enough. Sometimes they returned to the same tree or ravine season after season. Other times they vanished into a new valley and never came back. They carried nothing but memory. They were not the only creatures who slept beneath the stars. Lions roamed, hyenas cackled in the dark, saber-tooths moved like shadows through the tall grass. So how did they survive? They chose sleeping spots wisely, high ground, open views, near running water. They posted silent sentries who watched and listened and did not sleep until the others had rested. Sometimes they used thorny branches to make rings around sleeping circles. Other times they relied only on scent and luck.
When danger came close, they froze, breathed shallow, waited, and sometimes it passed them by. This was the rhythm of life, not dominance, not safety, just awareness. Constant, quiet awareness. The night sky, then, was darker than anything we know,
There were no cities, no lamps, no glow on the horizon. Only moonlight, stars, and silence. So much silence. The Milky Way was a river above them. Planets flickered like lanterns. Comets moved slowly across months, watched and remembered. They didn't know what stars were, but they knew them. They followed them. They slept beneath them. Dreams came like smoke, slow, strange, wordless. And the people stirred quietly, barely moving. One or two would rise to stretch, then lie back down, and vanish again into the rhythm of the dark. Nothing was permanent. Not campfires, not shelters, not food sources, not even rivers. So they moved every few days, every few weeks, always walking. They moved in small groups, 10, maybe 20 at most, slowly, gently, with no rush. Sometimes led by the eldest, sometimes by the one who knew where the animals had gone. Their footsteps wore faint trails into the earth, then disappeared. They never asked, "Where will we live?" Only, "Where can we go next?" And so, without clothes, without fire, without homes, they survived, not by dominating nature, but by moving with it, softly, quietly, together. Hour by hour, day by day, life went on. Before farms, before fire, before recipes and harvests, food was found, not made. Mornings often began with quiet foraging. Fingers ran across leaves, searching for berries or seeds. They knew which mushrooms were safe. They knew which trees hid edible grubs behind their bark. Sometimes they dug with sticks, unearthing tubers, dense, starchy, and nourishing. Sometimes they waited near water, scooping fish or crustaceans with bare hands. There was no sugar, no salt, no spice, only what the land gave and what their bodies accepted. Even rotting meat, rich in bacteria, was eaten cautiously because calories meant life, and they did not waste. Imagine hunting without metal, without bows, without even fire to cook the meat. Hunting was not about power. It was about patience, endurance. They walked and walked and walked. Some animals they chased, not for minutes, but for hours. Persistence hunting, following hoofprints in dust, reading broken branches, watching dung dry. They waited until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. Then came the stones, the sharpened sticks, the finishing blow. It was slow, it was brutal, but it worked. And when they ate everything: meat, fat, bone marrow, organs, because every bite was a gift. A mother kneels in the dust. A child sits on her lap chewing on a stick. They do not speak, but they understand. There are no names, no bedtime stories, but there is touch. There is eye contact. There is humming. Families were close, physically and emotionally. Children were raised by many, not just one. Grandmothers, uncles, siblings, all shared the work of keeping little ones safe. When danger came, the group became a shield. When a child cried, arms reached out. Comfort didn't need words. It was built into the bones. They may not have had gods, but they had awe. They noticed patterns, that rain came after thunder, that certain stars rose only in certain seasons, that death came and never left. They remembered, not just places and faces, but the feel of things. A smooth pebble, a place where the wind sang through trees, a bone buried carefully with care and silence. The seeds of belief were there, not religion as we know it, but
but reverence, stillness, a sense that something more might exist. At the end of each day, when the world quieted, they lay down under stars, not in beds, not in houses, just on the earth. The sky turned, the air cooled, and they let go of the day. No fire warmed them, no blanket tucked them in, only the sound of breathing and the rhythm of distant animals in the dark. Children clutched stones. Elders sighed softly. The group curled like a single body, resting in the arms of the land. And sleep came, as it always had and always would.
Long before comfort, before language, before fire or homes or clothing, humans survived, quietly, gently, together. They endured the cold, the dark, the fear, and still found a way to live. And as we drift into sleep, we can remember them, not as savages or shadows, but as the first to face the night with only each other. Thank you for staying with me on this slow journey into the ancient world. Rest well, and we'll meet again in the next sleepy story. And so they lived, quietly, simply, in a world before warmth, before shelter, before comfort. But still, they survived. And because of that, we are here. Thank you for joining me on this slow walk into the distant past. Rest well, and we'll meet again in the next sleepy story.